Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. My wife asked for a break in our relationship. The next thing I knew, she was using our money to see someone else. So I acted before she could react. My name's Keith. I'm 35, been working as an electrician for about 12 years now. I run my own crew, make enough to live comfortably. Nothing fancy, but it's stable. Solid. My wife, Samantha, she's 32, works in marketing at a mid-sized tech company downtown. One of those open office places with kombucha on tap and meetings where they throw around words like ideate and synergy. We've been married 5 years, together for 7 in total. No kids yet. Talked about it a few times, but there was never any real urgency. You know how it is, life gets moving, and before you know it, it's just another thing you'll get to later. I met Samantha at a friend's housewarming party in 16. I don't usually approach women at events like that. Too loud, too many people trying to impress each other. But there was something about her. She was smart. The kind of smart that doesn't just talk at you, but with you. She could go from breaking down the latest political mess to talking about the Dodgers bullpen like she was born in the dugout. And she had this approachable kind of beauty, not that filtered Instagram kind or the high-maintenance type you see in magazines. She was just real. The kind of woman you want to wake up next to. The kind that makes coffee in an old sweatshirt and looks better than anything you could have dreamed. We came from different worlds. Her with her college degree and modern office full of glass walls and snack bars. Me with my steel-toed boots, work pants that always smelled like copper or insulation, and hands roughed up from years inside walls full of wires. But it worked. She never made me feel less for not having a degree. Never once treated me like I didn't measure up. A year in, we moved in together. By year 2, I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. She said yes with tears in her eyes, and we got married that spring. Life was good, really good, which is why what happened last Tuesday hit me like a concrete slab to the chest. I was sitting at the kitchen table, half a slice of leftover pizza on my plate, scrolling through my phone, mostly junk, sports highlights, a meme or two. Samantha was across from me, finishing up some work emails on her laptop. It was a normal evening. Nothing strange, nothing tense. We had just gotten back from a weekend camping trip. We'd laughed a lot, gotten lost on a hiking trail, even argued playfully about who forgot to pack the extra batteries. There'd been intimacy, real conversations. It had felt like us. Then, she closed her laptop. I didn't even look up until I felt the silence. She was staring at me with this expression I couldn't place. Not angry, not sad, just removed. "Keith," she said. "Yeah." I replied, still scrolling. "I think we need a little break." I stopped chewing. "A break from what?" I asked, blinking at her. "From this. From the environment. From all of this," she said, gesturing vaguely around the room. "I need time to clear my head. Figure some things out." I leaned back, my heart starting to race in that slow, creeping way. "Figure out what?" I said, my voice tight. "Did I do something wrong?" She shook her head gently, her voice dipping into that familiar, careful tone, the kind people use when they're about to say something they've rehearsed. "No, it's not that. It's not about you," she said. "I just feel like I'm losing myself in the routine. I love you, but I need space to rediscover myself outside of the marriage." That's what she said. Just like that. Calm. Direct. I sat there, stunned. We had just spent 3 days in a tent, sharing deep thoughts, laughing, making love under the stars. If she was having a crisis, when the hell was she planning on telling me? Before the trip? During? After the next one? For how long? I asked, doing my best to keep my voice steady. She hesitated, but only for a second. "Maybe 2 weeks. I can stay at Jasmine's place." Jasmine. Her college friend. They'd stayed in touch over the years, saw each other maybe once a month, drinks, occasional brunch, usual friend stuff. Jasmine lived across town in one of those shiny new apartment buildings with a gym and rooftop pool. It sounded reasonable enough. "And what does this mean exactly?" I asked, trying to stay grounded. "Are we still a couple?" Before I could finish, she cut me off. "Yes. This isn't about anyone else, Keith," she said quickly. "It's just for me, to process some things." It all sounded scripted, like she'd run through it 100 times in her head before saying it out loud. I didn't want to be that guy, the jealous husband who freaks out the moment his wife says she needs a little space. I took a deep breath. My stomach felt like it was folding in on itself, but I nodded. "Okay," I said. "If that's what you need, we'll do it." She seemed relieved. Too relieved. She walked around the table and wrapped her arms around me. Helped me. Told me she loved me. That this would make us stronger. Then she went upstairs. I sat there listening to drawers opening and closing as she packed an overnight bag, just the essentials. Less than an hour later, she was downstairs, bag in hand. I helped her load up the car. Legally, it's mine, but we share it. I hugged her one more time before she got in. Let me know when you get there, I said. I will, she promised, then kissed me on the cheek and drove off. I just stood there in the driveway, watching my wife disappear into the night to, find herself. But something wasn't right. I couldn't explain it then. Just a feeling in my gut. Something off in the way she said it all. Too smooth. Too clean. That night, I sat on the couch eating Chinese takeout, the house painfully silent. It wasn't just the break, it was how she'd proposed it. Like she had planned every word, every step. Around 10 p.m., I gave in to the unease gnawing at my chest. I decided to text Jasmine. Nothing complicated. Hey, just wanted to see if Samantha made it to your place okay. Thanks for having her. 20 minutes later, I got the reply. Hi, what? I haven't spoken to Samantha in a week. Did something happen? And just like that, everything collapsed. She lied to me. From day one of this so-called break, she had lied. I stared at my phone, frozen. If she wasn't at Jasmine's, then where was she? And why lie? That's when things started to come into focus. All the things I brushed off. The subtle changes, the strange expressions, the odd silences. When you start looking for lies, you find them everywhere. The next morning, I called my crew and told them I was sick. Wasn't entirely a lie, my stomach was in knots. I made some coffee, sat down at the kitchen table, and just tried to think. That's when I saw the laptop. The one we both used. Nothing unusual. It was for estimates, invoices, Netflix. Samantha usually kept her session logged in, since she handled most of our digital stuff. I wasn't planning on snooping. That wasn't the kind of husband I ever wanted to be. But after Jasmine's message, the one where she said she hadn't even spoken to Samantha in a week, something inside me snapped. So I opened the laptop. The main screen came up, and I moved the cursor toward the browser to check our bank account, just to see if there were any odd charges, maybe something that could point me to where Samantha had actually gone. That's when a Slack notification slid in from the corner of the screen. From someone named Jacob Morgan, a coworker of hers. I'd heard the name before, just in passing, never thought anything of it. The preview line hit me like a crowbar to the ribs. Last night was incredible. Still can't believe we did it without him noticing. My blood ran cold. I sat there, completely still, fingers hovering over the trackpad. I knew that if I clicked that message, there'd be no turning back. But I also knew I had to. So I did. The entire conversation loaded. Threads of messages stretching back for months, since January. While I was out working 12-hour days, running cable through crawl spaces, sweating through 2 shirts a shift, she was off planning client meetings that turned out to be little more than check-ins to confirm hotel reservations. I kept reading. I don't know why I kept reading. Maybe part of me still didn't believe it, thought I'd find some kind of rational explanation. But it only got worse. Some of the messages are burned into my brain. Room 247 at the Marriott. Same time tomorrow. Your husband's working late again. Perfect. Dying to taste you again. There were photos too. I won't describe them. But they weren't work-related. They weren't even private. They were vulgar. And then came the one that finally pushed me from disbelief to rage. When are you going to tell him? I'm tired of hiding. After I take this break, give me 2 weeks to find the cleanest way out. That last message? It was from Monday night. The night before she asked for the break. It had all been staged. Cold. Calculated. She didn't need space to rediscover herself. That was just the script. She needed time, 2 weeks, to carefully exit without being the villain. Without facing me. Without admitting what she'd done. She was going to spin it into some personal growth journey. Make me look like the man who held her back while she was just trying to find her truth, or chase her potential, or some other corporate self-help nonsense. But I already knew. I sat there shaking. Angry. Humiliated. Betrayed. Still, I screenshotted every message. Every photo. Every timestamp. I wasn't thinking like a husband anymore. I was thinking like a man who needed evidence. Cold, unshakable proof. Then I opened our shared calendar and the bank account. And that's when things started to align, perfectly. That so-called client dinner she had last month? A $170 hotel charge popped up that same night. That creative team offsite. A $600 cash withdrawal. Right near Jacob Morgan's building. Yes, I looked up his address. Girls' night with Jasmine. Another hotel charge. $230. Different hotel, same pattern. Once I knew what to look for, it was like seeing in color for the first time. Everything made sense. Every excuse to be out late. Every weekend meeting. Every spontaneous outing with the girls. There was always a matching expense, hotel, restaurant, Uber rides across town. It was all right there in plain sight. And what burned me the most? She used our money for it. Money I earned. Out under the hot sun. Crawling through insulation, wiring panels, lifting heavy gear, drenched in sweat. All of it going into dinners, hotel rooms, and God knows what else for some marketing clown who probably can't tell a fuse from a light switch. I combed through 3 months of bank statements. $2,000 in expenses tied directly to her work commitments. It was like staring at a puzzle, and suddenly every piece slid right into place. But the most painful part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was discovering just how meticulous it all was. This wasn't a slip-up. It wasn't some fleeting emotional crisis or a moment of confusion. No, this was premeditated. A cold, calculated strategy. She had been living a double life behind my back, perfectly balanced between loving wife and future ex-wife cashing in. And she wasn't just betraying me. She was already plotting how to benefit from the divorce. I found messages between her and Jacob planning a romantic trip to Costa Rica. Yeah, Costa Rica. Using money from our savings account. Her exact words still echo in my head. After our marriage naturally ends. After. Like it was a storm they were both patiently waiting to pass. They'd go off together and enjoy themselves. Jacob even sent her links to articles, actual articles, about how to gain the upper hand in a separation. Very romantic, right? Nothing says love like legal strategy and asset division tips. While I was at work, she was fantasizing about sipping cocktails on a beach with him, on my dime. They had it all lined up. She'd get half in the divorce, claim spousal support because I earn more, and then just disappear with him. Instead of blowing up, I found myself going still. Calm. But not the kind of calm that comes from peace. No, this was the dangerous kind. The kind that comes when you stop reacting and start thinking. That's when it hit me. I had 2 options. Beg her to stay. Promise to change. Swallow my pride and try to salvage something that was already a lie. Or I could act. Intelligently. Strategically. I chose the second. By Thursday, I had it all mapped out. Nothing emotional. Nothing impulsive. A clean, legitimate, bulletproof legal plan. If she was going to play dirty, I'd have to be smarter. I started by searching for lawyers who specialize in divorces involving infidelity and asset protection. I dug through reviews, articles, forums, anywhere people talked openly. One name kept coming up, Joanna West. Clients said she was no nonsense. Smart. Tough but fair. She had a reputation for standing her ground and not letting cheating spouses walk away with a reward. Her office was downtown, in one of those all-glass buildings that scream billable hours. Parking alone cost more than a steak dinner, and walking into the lobby with my work boots and worn jeans, I felt like a mechanic crashing a boardroom meeting. But the receptionist greeted me kindly, and to my surprise, got me an appointment that same afternoon. Joanna West was exactly what I needed. Late 40s, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her posture, her voice, everything about her screamed experience and control. Her office walls were lined with awards, degrees, framed articles. One plaque near her desk read Family Lawyer of the Year. She didn't waste time. "What's your situation?" she asked, folding her hands on the desk. I didn't hold back. Told her everything. 5 years of marriage. No kids. My wife, Samantha, involved with a co-worker named Jacob. The so-called break she asked for was just a cover to prep for her exit. I told her I wanted to protect what was mine, what I'd built before the marriage, and everything we built together. She listened closely, occasionally jotting something down. "Do you have proof of the infidelity?" she asked. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder of screenshots. Messages, photos, hotel bookings, dates, bank charges. She went through them silently, page by page, scroll by scroll. When she got to the messages about the Costa Rica trip, she finally reacted. A small, satisfied smile. "This is excellent," she said, finally looking up. "Your state allows for at-fault divorce due to adultery. That eliminates the possibility of her demanding alimony. Plus, there's clear evidence she used marital funds to maintain the affair, which is considered dissipation of assets." I blinked. And what does that mean in plain English? It means she owes you every penny she spent on hotels, dinners, and cash withdrawals while she was cheating on you, Joanna said, matter-of-factly. I liked her immediately. She wasn't cold, but she was clear, focused, professional, not someone who flinched or tiptoed around hard truths. She laid out all my options. With the kind of solid proof I had, we could file for an at-fault divorce. Not only would that cancel any chance of Samantha claiming alimony, but it would also give me leverage when it came to dividing up the assets. Of course, the house was going to be the trickiest piece. I had bought it before we got married, but after 5 years of shared living, payments, maintenance, upgrades, some of its value could technically be considered marital property. But, Joanna said, tapping the screen where Samantha and Jacob were discussing their plans, if we can show that she was plotting to deceive you before the separation, we might be able to argue that her share should be minimized, possibly even excluded. Even if her name's not on the deed, I asked. She might still have a claim to a portion of the increased value. she said, but these messages? They suggest calculated intent. That matters. If she was planning to exit and profit from it while pretending to work on the marriage, that could be considered marital fraud. She didn't stop there. The use of joint funds to facilitate an affair? Hotels, meals, gifts, those can be framed as economic adultery. Every dollar withdrawn near Jacob's place, every meal charged to your shared card, every hotel night she booked while lying about client meetings, it's all evidence. Evidence she owes me, I said. Exactly, Joanna nodded. Money she has to return to the marital estate. We didn't waste time. That same day, we filed the petition. It included an emergency motion to freeze the joint accounts. Since I had hard proof Samantha was spending our shared funds on her affair, Joanna was confident the judge would approve the motion quickly. By tomorrow, she said with a calm certainty, her debit card will stop working. Just like that. She'd still have whatever cash she'd already taken out, but after that, she'd be cut off. No more romantic getaways on my dime. No more cozy dinners bought with my labor. Next, we focused on protecting my assets. Joanna asked me to compile a complete inventory, everything I owned, from the obvious to the overlooked. The house, the cars, my work truck, my tools, my retirement accounts, 401k, Roth IRA, savings. Even my old collection of classic guitars I started gathering in high school. Anything you own before the marriage is separate, she said, but we'll need records. Receipts, appraisals, deposit slips, anything that shows what was yours from the start. I started organizing everything that evening. The house was, without question, the biggest asset. I bought it when I was 28, using $40,000 from an inheritance as the down payment. During the marriage, I paid about $60,000 more toward the mortgage. Samantha had pitched in, sure, but not nearly as much. Maybe $15,000 over 5 years, mostly toward groceries and some bills. I handled everything else, I told Joanna. She nodded. We'll argue that the value added to the house is due to your work and financial contribution. You did the renovations, right? All of them, I said. Electrical, plumbing. I sanded and varnished the floors myself. Built a new deck. Fixed up the yard. Brought in new insulation. Easily added about $80,000 in value, just with labor. And she? Joanna asked. She picked out paint colors. Joanna smiled. Then we lean on that. The property value went up because of your physical effort and expertise, not because of shared decisions. That makes a big difference. She was smart. Sharp. A woman who didn't blink at hard conversations. Then we discussed strategy. What would happen if we filed the papers immediately? We'd catch her by surprise. She thought she had 2 full weeks to plan her exit, to quietly maneuver her way out of the marriage and into her next life. But she didn't realize I had already turned the tables. Joanna leaned forward in her chair, flipping through her notes. The car she's using, whose name is it under? Mine only, I said. Bought it before the marriage. Never added her to the registration. Good, she nodded. Then it's still your property. Legally, you can install a GPS tracker if you want to document where she's staying. Just make sure you save everything. Screenshots, location logs, everything. Perfect. That afternoon, I swung by a sporting goods store and picked up a magnetic GPS tracker. The kind hunters use. Compact, discreet, and easy to monitor with an app. It cost me $80. I figured it was one of the smartest investments I'd ever made. That night, around 11 p.m., I drove over to Jacob Morgan's apartment complex. It took me about 20 minutes to find our car, parked in the visitor area under a flickering streetlight. I crouched behind the bumper, hands steady, and clipped the tracker in place. Magnetic, secure, invisible. The whole thing took less than 2 minutes. By 11:15, I was back in my truck, heading home. Now I would know exactly where Samantha went, when she got there, and how long she stayed. Friday morning, I checked the app. She'd spent the entire night at 1247 Oak Creek Drive, apartment 3B. A quick Google search confirmed it. Jacob Morgan, 28, marketing specialist. Worked at the same company as Samantha. So much for staying at Jasmine's to rediscover herself. On the first night of her so-called break, she was already shacked up with her affair partner. But here was the best part. I now had GPS evidence. Time-stamped. Backed up. Her arrival, her stay, her departure. Every movement logged and archived on my phone. At noon, Joanna called. The judge approved our emergency motion, she said. Samantha's access to the joint accounts will be frozen as of 2 p.m. today. She won't see it coming, I said. She'll probably call you upset, Joanna warned. Don't react. Don't admit anything. Just tell her you're protecting the marital assets during the separation. Which, by the way, is completely legal. I was ready. Hell, I was waiting for that call. Sure enough, the tracker showed her leaving Jacob's apartment around 3 p.m., likely heading to work. I figured she'd eventually try to use her card. Didn't take long. At 4:47 p.m., my phone rang. Her custom ringtone blared, sharp and familiar. I picked up. "Keith, what the hell did you do?" She blurted out, no greeting, no pretense. "My card just got declined at the grocery store." I kept my voice steady. Calm. "Oh, that," I said. "I froze our joint accounts." "What? What?" "I'm protecting the marital assets during the separation period. It's standard procedure. If you want, you can contact my lawyer. I'll send you her details." "You can't do that. That money is mine too." "Actually, I can," I replied, still cool. "And I did. You wanted space, remember?" I said, my voice steady. "Well, this is what space looks like when you're married. Separate finances until we decide what we're doing." She went quiet. A few seconds passed, enough time for it to sink in. Her plan to fund her affair using our shared money had just crashed headfirst into a wall she didn't expect. "This is absurd, Keith," she finally said, her voice rising. "For what?" I asked, still calm. "I thought you were at Jasmine's." Reflecting. "How much money does it take to find yourself?" Another silence. Longer this time. She was clearly trying to come up with some version of the truth that didn't sound like an outright confession. "I need money for gas. Food. Basic things." "You've got your personal account," I reminded her. "With your salary. Use that." "I only have, like $200. And there it was. Confirmation. She'd been relying almost entirely on our joint account, my income, while stockpiling her own funds in a separate account. Very thoughtful of her. "Sounds like a budgeting problem," I said flatly. "Maybe this separation will help you learn to manage money better." She hung up without another word. The next morning, I checked the tracker. She was still at Jacob's. Apparently, her deep process of self-discovery included multiple nights wrapped in the comfort of her co-worker's apartment. By Sunday afternoon, I got another call from Joanna. "More good news," she said. "Samantha's hired a lawyer." That didn't surprise me. It confirmed what I already suspected, that this entire spontaneous break had been planned long in advance. Her representative reached out. Joanna continued. "They want to talk about temporary financial support during the separation." "And what did you tell them?" I asked. "That we'd be happy to discuss it, just as soon as her client stops committing adultery and spending marital funds to do it." That shut the conversation down. Quickly. After that, Samantha's movements became more erratic. The tracker showed her bouncing between Jacob's apartment, various ATMs, probably trying to hit the daily withdrawal limit, and places like the grocery store, a department store, even a gas station. It was clear she was scrambling to get her finances in order, scraping together whatever she could now that the safety net had vanished. At 3 p.m. on Sunday, she showed up at our house. I saw her from the living room window. She sat in the car for a good 5 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel, probably rehearsing whatever she was about to say. When she finally got out, I could tell she'd been crying. Her hair was a mess. She was still wearing the same clothes from 2 days ago. She looked wrecked. Not angry. Not smug. Just like someone whose perfectly crafted plan was slowly collapsing under its own lies. She rang the doorbell, even though she still had her keys. I guess that was her way of being respectful. A small gesture. Too little, too late. But I acknowledged it. "Hi, Keith," she said as I opened the door. Her voice tried to sound calm, but it wavered. "Can we talk?" "Sure. Come in," I said, stepping aside. She walked into the living room, eyes scanning the space like it was a place she didn't recognize anymore. Maybe she expected me to be a mess, curled up on the couch, drunk, pizza boxes piled up, TV blaring some old action movie at full volume. But everything was in order. I sat in my recliner, facing her, calm, collected. She lowered herself onto the couch, our couch, the one where we used to sit side by side, binging shows and sharing snacks. She didn't look at me at first. "This thing with freezing the accounts," she started, her voice shaky. "Don't you think it was a bit much?" I didn't move. "You wanted space. I gave it to you. You wanted time. I granted it. What's the problem?" "The problem is I can't access our money. It's not fair. Our money." I repeated, letting those words hang in the air for a second. Interesting choice of words. "Tell me, Samantha, what have you been spending our money on since you asked for this break?" Her eyes flicked up to me, startled, like a deer in headlights. "What do you mean?" she asked, playing dumb. I said slowly, "You asked for a break on Tuesday night. By Wednesday, there were hotel and restaurant charges showing up on our account. That was pretty quick for someone who was supposedly just staying with Jasmine to reflect on her life." Her face changed, dropped, really. The color drained. She looked like a child caught stealing from the cookie jar. I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered, visibly nervous. "Really?" I said, raising my eyebrows. "Because I spoke to Jasmine on Thursday night. Funny thing, she said she hasn't seen you in over a week. So either Jasmine is lying, or you are." I leaned forward slightly. Which one do you think it is? She stared at me, jaw working, but no sound coming out. Her mouth opened once, closed, opened again, like she had a dozen stories queued up, but none that would work under pressure. Keith, can I explain? Oh, I'm sure you can, I cut in. You were always good at spinning stories. But before you get into your version of events, there's something you should see. I reached behind the recliner and pulled out the manila folder that had been sitting there since Friday. Quiet. Waiting. I placed it gently on the coffee table. She looked at it like it might bite her. Inside were the printed messages between her and Jacob Morgan. The screenshots. The timelines. The photo logs. Hotel bills. Calendar events. All of it, laid out in order. Evidence. What is that? She asked, voice cracking. This, I said, sliding it across the table toward her. This is what I've been investing my time in, while you were out finding yourself. She hesitated. Then, with shaking hands, she opened it. The first page showed her earliest exchanges with Jacob, dated all the way back to January. Her eyes skimmed the lines, then slowed. Her face shifted, first confusion, then horror, then full-blown panic. She knew. There was no way out. Keith, this isn't what it looks like, she whispered. Oh no, I said, folding my arms. Because it looks like you've been cheating on me since January. It looks like you've been using our money to do it. And it looks like you plan to leave me while pretending to reflect. It's all taken out of context. She tried again, desperate now. Really? I leaned in. Then explain to me what context justifies phrases like, I can't wait to taste you again, or your husband is still working late, lucky me. I'd love to know what alternate universe those words mean something innocent. She flipped through the pages fast now. Her hands trembled as she saw it all. Every hotel bill matched with a message, every suggestive photo, every detail, including the plan for a Costa Rica getaway, funded by the money she thought she'd walk away with from the divorce. You invaded my privacy, she blurted out suddenly, hoping to pivot to some kind of victim narrative. Your messages were on the shared laptop, I said flatly. You left it open. There's nothing private about planning an affair on our family devices. That's when she broke. The tears came hard. Real ones this time. Not the crocodile kind she'd pulled in the past when things got inconvenient. No, these were real, panicked, crumbling tears. She wasn't in control anymore. Her story had shattered, and there was no version of it she could twist into something that made her the misunderstood one. Her entire narrative had collapsed, and she knew there was no way to spin it in her favor. I never wanted it to happen like this, she said through tears. Of course you did, I replied, standing up. You've been organizing this for months. The only thing you didn't plan for was me finding out. I reached behind the recliner again and pulled out another envelope. This one thicker, stamped with the letterhead of Joanna's law firm. Her eyes followed my hand, and when she saw the seal, her voice dropped to a whisper. Is that divorce papers? I said. They include charges for adultery, misuse of marital assets, and fraud. I paused. Oh, and Jacob says hi. Her hands trembled as she took the envelope. Just then, the doorbell rang. That must be for you, I said, walking calmly to answer it. The man waiting on the porch wore a suit, carried a clipboard, and had the unbothered look of someone who served legal papers for a living. Samantha? He asked, peering into the living room. That's her, I said. You've been served, he said, stepping forward and handing her another official copy. Have a good day. Then he turned and left like he was delivering a pizza, not a legal bombshell. Samantha sat frozen, 2 sets of legal papers clutched in her hands, her face completely blank. She looked like someone whose world had just caved in around her. And to be fair, it had. I walked back in and sat down. The joint accounts will remain frozen until this is resolved, I explained calmly. You'll have access to whatever's in your personal account. Your lawyer can explain the rest. My lawyer? She asked, confused. Yes. Mine spoke to yours on Friday, I said. Apparently, you hired him on Wednesday, the same day you started your famous personal retreat. Quite a coincidence, huh? She didn't answer. Didn't even try to spin it anymore. She knew the evidence had crushed every excuse she could possibly offer. And now where am I supposed to go? She asked, her voice breaking. I can't afford a hotel every night. That's no longer my concern, I said flatly. But I understand Jacob has a pretty comfortable place. You certainly spent enough time there this weekend. Her head jerked up. How do you know that? Your things are packed, I said, ignoring her question. They're in the garage. Everything except the furniture and household items. She just stared at me. I also left you a check for your share of the joint expenses. I did the math fairly. She looked at me like she didn't recognize the person sitting in front of her. Did you really plan all of this? She whispered. Someone had to, I said. You were too busy planning your escape to think about the details. It took her 4 trips to load everything into the car. We worked in silence. She cried. I just wanted it over. When she finally finished, she stood in the driveway and looked back at the house, as if she knew it would be the last time she'd see it. And it was. Then she got into the car and drove away. I watched until the taillights disappeared down the street. For the first time in a long time, my house was peaceful. But it didn't last long. The next morning, my phone started blowing up. First it was Samantha's sister, then her mom, then a couple of our mutual friends, all hitting the same damn script, as if they were reading from the same cue card. What's wrong with you? Samantha is devastated. How could you be so cruel? Turns out Samantha had spent the night dialing up anyone who would listen, spinning her version of events into something that sounded like a Hallmark drama. According to her, I was a controlling husband who just couldn't handle her need for a little independence, that she asked for some time to work on herself, and I reacted like a lunatic, freezing bank accounts, calling lawyers, filing for divorce out of the blue. No mention of Jacob, of course. Not a whisper about the affair, the lies, the fake story about Jasmine, or how she used our money to sneak off to hotels and fine restaurants with a guy from work. No. In Samantha's version, she was just a brave young wife trying to grow as a person, only to be crushed by an unreasonably harsh, unsupportive partner. Even her mother, Savannah, had the gall to call me Monday morning. Keith, she began, using that signature condescending mother-in-law tone like she was already preparing to scold me. I spoke with Samantha. She's heartbroken. Don't you think you're overreacting a bit? I didn't say anything at first. I let her keep going. Marriage is about facing problems together, she said, not running to a lawyer at the first hurdle. The first hurdle? I repeated, flat. Tell me, Savannah, what exactly did Samantha tell you about this supposed personal retreat of hers? She told me she needed time to find herself again, she said confidently. That's completely normal for young couples. But you, instead of being understanding, went straight for divorce. That's not how marriage works. Her tone said it all. She truly believed what she was saying. Samantha had fed her the perfect little narrative. Her daughter, the misunderstood wife, the spiritual wanderer. And me, the impatient, reactionary husband. So I set the record straight. I didn't give her every explicit detail, but I gave her enough. Enough to crack the illusion. I told her about the made-up Jasmine story, the hotel receipts, the dinner charges, the hundreds withdrawn in cash near Jacob Morgan's building, the timeline, the messages, how the whole thing was orchestrated from the beginning. There was silence on the other end. For a long time. Do you have proof of all that? She finally asked. I have screenshots, bank statements, GPS location data, 3 months worth of documentation, I said. Samantha's lawyer already has copies. Another pause. I need to call you back, she muttered. Then the line went dead. I knew right then and there, Samantha's little house of lies was about to cave in. The next day, my phone rang again. It was her father, Russell. He and I had always gotten along well. Old school kind of guy. Worked construction his whole life. Believed in honesty, loyalty, putting in the work. A lot like my own dad. Keith, he said. But this time his voice? It sounded different. Colder. Savannah showed me the proof you gave her. Is all that true? Russell asked me, his voice heavy. Every word. I replied. If you want, I can send you copies so you can verify it yourself. He looked down and shook his head slowly, muttering under his breath. I gave that girl everything. Paid for her college. Helped with the wedding expenses. Always supported her dreams. And this is how she thanks me. I'm very sorry you had to find out this way. I said. I know it's not easy. He let out a bitter laugh. Dry, hollow, without a shred of humor. Not easy. You know what really hurts? Finding out my daughter is just like her mother. That one hit hard. Samantha's parents had divorced 3 years ago after her mom had an affair with her yoga instructor. Pretty original, right? Guess infidelity ran in the family. And Russell, he hadn't missed the pattern. It was written all over his face. By that evening, he was calling the rest of the family. The tone had completely changed. In a matter of hours, Samantha went from the misunderstood wife to a full-blown cautionary tale. What's wrong with that girl? Was the new refrain. Her support network? Collapsed like a house of cards. But that was just the beginning. On Wednesday afternoon, Joanna called me with an update. Samantha's lawyer wants to talk about settlement terms, she said. They're no longer interested in disputing the infidelity accusations. I sat up straighter. What kind of deal are they proposing? Basically, Joanna said, they want to minimize her financial exposure. She's willing to waive any rights to the house, retirement accounts, or spousal support in exchange for a quick and quiet divorce. I narrowed my eyes. Where's the catch? From a legal standpoint, there isn't one, she answered. She's accepting her guilt and giving up everything to avoid a public trial. Joanna paused. But something tells me there's more to it. She was right. There clearly was something more. By Thursday morning, I couldn't shake the feeling. So I decided to do a little digging. this time into Samantha and Jacob Morgan's work environment. They worked at one of those shiny tech startups that brag about their company culture, endless perks, trendy job titles, and the words integrity, ethics, and values plastered all over their website. I found their employee handbook online. They were always hiring, so most of the policies were public. Section 12.3 jumped out at me. The professional code of conduct clearly prohibited using company resources for personal relationships, submitting fraudulent expense reports, and engaging in any behavior that could negatively impact the company's image. Interesting, because all those Slack messages between Samantha and Jacob, they were sent during work hours, on company equipment, over corporate servers, and those client dinners and team meetings, they were actually romantic hotel stays. If they'd claimed any of those expenses for reimbursement, that wasn't just unethical, it was fraud. I pulled up Samantha's shared work calendar and cross-referenced it with her expense reports. She'd been careless, probably assumed no one would ever bother to look. But I looked, and there it was. Dozens of meals, ride shares, and trips that had no connection to legitimate work activities. I compiled everything. Every message, every false expense, every misused calendar entry, organized into a clean, precise file. Joanna helped me fine-tune it. Then we sent it, anonymously, but perfectly documented, to the HR department and the company's ethics hotline. The response was swift. By Friday afternoon, Jacob had been summoned to HR, and by the following Monday, he was cleaning out his desk, apparently claiming overtime while actually spending nights in hotels with a married coworker didn't go over too well. He violated at least 6 internal policies. On top of that, there were the false expense reports and, of course, the explicit Slack messages sent through company devices. Samantha lasted exactly 1 more week. They gave her a chance to justify the expenses, but she couldn't do it without exposing the relationship. And when they showed her the messages, ones I had forwarded anonymously, she broke down and confessed everything. They didn't just get let go. They were fired. For cause, which meant no severance pay, no access to unemployment benefits, and they were flagged as non-rehirable in their employment records. But it didn't stop there. Turns out, the company takes ethical violations very seriously. So seriously, in fact, that they reported the situation to their commercial risk insurer. When employees commit fraud with company resources, it can void parts of the coverage. In short, both Samantha and Jacob were now exposed to potential civil suits, not only for the money misused, but also for the costs of legal proceedings their actions had triggered. That Friday afternoon, Joanna called me with an update. I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. Samantha's lawyer is practically begging for a meeting to reach an agreement, she said. They want to close this fast. Your wife is unemployed, facing civil suits from her former company, and her family already knows the whole truth. She has no leverage left. I sat in my truck and listened quietly, taking it all in. What's she offering? I asked. Everything, Joanna replied. The house, retirement accounts, cars, savings. She just asks to take her personal belongings and whatever is left in her checking account. I was quiet for a moment. In return, she continued, she wants the divorce resolved as soon as possible. No trial. I thought about it for maybe 10 seconds. I accept, I said, but with one condition. What is it? She must commit in writing to never contact me again, except through lawyers. No late-night texts. No, let's talk. Nothing. Done, Joanna said. Anything else? Yeah. I want her to sign a confidentiality agreement about our marriage. What happened between us stays between us. She doesn't get to twist the story anymore. Consider it handled. The following Friday, Samantha signed the papers. She gave up everything we had built together. No alimony. No division of assets. No appeals. She took her clothes and about $800 from her personal checking account. 6 weeks later, the divorce was finalized. According to Joanna, it was the fastest uncontested divorce in the county's history. Since then, Samantha hasn't contacted me. No messages. No calls. No apology. Not even an attempt to explain. Instead of getting stuck in resentment, I focused on rebuilding. I threw myself into work. Picked up the old hobbies I'd let go of. Spent time with people who respected my time and loyalty. Slowly, something inside me began to settle. It wasn't easy. You don't go through something like that without scars. But time, while it doesn't erase everything, does help you find where the pieces fit again. Sometimes, I stop and think about how close I came to continuing a life with someone who no longer shared my values. I broke free from a chain before it became an anchor. And although it wasn't the ending I imagined when we promised each other forever, it was a lesson I'll never forget. Not everything that shines is commitment. And sometimes, losing what felt stable is the first step toward regaining what truly matters. Your peace of mind. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.